Level 1. The envelope. It starts with a call at 2:13 a.m. No greeting. Just an address in Culiacan and a warning not to bring your phone. The warehouse smells like diesel fuel and wet cardboard. Men with rifles stand near loading docks stacked with shrink-wrapped produce crates. Tomatoes on the outside. Vacuum-sealed cocaine underneath. Nobody explains anything to you. A man in a white guayabera slides a manila envelope across the folding table. Inside is $48,600 in cash, mostly 20s. You count well? He asks. You nod once. That's enough. You spend the next 6 hours inside a freezing office beside the warehouse, feeding bills through an old Caseta machine while trucks come and go behind metal doors. Every amount gets written by hand into a black notebook. Not names, only symbols. A triangle means local distribution. A circle means border transport. A red slash means someone stole money. You learn quickly that missing money matters more than missing people. At sunrise, the guayabera man returns. He checks your numbers without speaking. Then he hands you another envelope. Inside is $3,000, more money than you made in 4 months at the bank. You never ask questions, he says. You never remember names. You never talk about what you see. Then he smiles. And if you make a mistake, you disappear before the money does. That's your onboarding. No contract, no oath, just fear. For the next 3 months, your world shrinks into numbers. Cash pickups, currency conversions, receipts burned in steel drums behind auto shops. You learn how drug money breathes. It arrives in garbage bags. It leaves through businesses, car washes, nightclubs, construction firms, a chain of seafood restaurants that somehow never has customers, but deposits $90,000 every Friday. You tell yourself it's temporary. Just numbers. Just accounting. But you stop sleeping normally. Every knock at your apartment door freezes your spine. Every police siren feels personal. And slowly, the fear starts becoming routine. That's when they know you're useful. Level 2, the cleaner. They move you into the real operation after 6 months. Not because they trust you, because you survived long enough to become predictable. The office sits above a dentist clinic in Guadalajara. Frosted windows. 2 armed guards downstairs pretending to smoke cigarettes all day. Inside, there are 12 accountants. Nobody uses real names. You're called Libro. Book. The room stays silent except for keyboards and counting machines. Millions move through the office every week. Cash becomes invoices. Invoices become imports. Imports become legal revenue. You clean money through agricultural exports first. Avocados, limes, frozen beef shipments. The trick is volume. Nobody notices an extra $140,000 hidden inside a company already moving $8 million a month. You learn layering, routing funds through Panama, Belize, Cyprus. You create shell corporations with fake directors who don't exist. Dead people sign documents. Homeless men become shareholders. A senator's cousin unknowingly owns a trucking company, moving cartel cash through Texas. You build entire realities out of paperwork. That's the real business, not drugs. Illusion. One night, a courier arrives with 2 duffel bags holding $1.2 million. The count comes up short by $18,000. Everyone stops typing. The room changes temperature instantly. The courier starts sweating before anyone accuses him. You watch the supervisor remove his watch, slowly. No yelling, no threats, just silence. The courier disappears downstairs with the guards. You never see him again. The next morning, his desk is occupied by someone else. No one mentions it. That's another rule. The system only survives if everybody acts normal. So you do. You keep typing. You stop flinching at violence because violence becomes administrative. Just another correction. And somewhere inside yourself, something important starts going numb. Level 3, the trusted man. By year 2, they let you travel. That's when you realize how large the machine really is. Mexico City, Monterrey, Houston, Bogota. Every city has the same hidden architecture. Restaurants laundering cash, law firms hiding ownership records, bankers pretending not to notice structured deposits under reporting limits. You carry encrypted flash drives inside shaving kits. You memorize account numbers instead of writing them down. You know which airports have corrupt customs agents and which border officers prefer Rolex watches over cash bribes. Your boss now is a man named Salazar. Not his real name. Nobody knows his real name. Salazar never raises his voice. That makes him terrifying. He teaches you the real hierarchy. Soldiers make noise. Traffickers take risks. But accountants? Accountants make empires survive. You can replace gunmen in a week, he tells you during dinner in Monterrey. But men who understand money are rare. For the first time, you feel respected. That's dangerous. Respect inside this world becomes addictive. You upgrade apartments, buy tailored suits, start wearing a $22,000 Audemars Piguet. Nobody questions, because wealthy men surround you constantly now. You tell your mother you work in international finance. Technically true. You begin handling political payments, monthly retainers for police commanders, campaign donations routed through charities, cash delivered to judges in bakery boxes. You stop thinking about legality. The only categories left are useful and dangerous. Then the DEA freezes 3 shell accounts in Arizona, $14 million gone overnight. Salazar calls you personally. You fix it. Not please. Not can you. You spend 72 straight hours moving assets through crypto wallets, offshore trusts, and a casino in Macau connected to a Chinese broker with triad ties. By Monday morning, most of the money survives. Salazar shakes your hand once. That matters more than the bonus. And that realization scares you more than the raids. No one mentions it. That's another rule. The system only survives if everybody acts normal. So you do. You keep typing. You stop flinching at violence because violence becomes administrative. Just another correction. And somewhere inside yourself, something important starts going numb. Level 4, the ghost ledger. You stop existing officially around year 4. No social media, no public records. 3 passports, 5 identities. The cartel moves you into a secure compound outside Merida with biometric locks and signal jammers built into the walls. Now you oversee entire laundering channels, roughly $480 million annually. Real estate becomes your specialty. Luxury condos, tourism developments, hotel chains. You funnel cartel cash into beachfront projects bought through Canadian holding companies. Foreign investors unknowingly help wash blood money while sipping wine during presentations. You become obsessed with invisibility. The safest accountant is the one nobody remembers meeting. You learn to speak less, dress simpler, watch exits constantly. Every conversation becomes strategic. Then the internal audits begin. Not financial audits, loyalty audits. A regional operator skims money from fuel theft operations in Veracruz. About $2.7 million. Not enough to matter financially, enough to matter symbolically. They bring him to the compound. You're asked to review his ledgers while he waits in another room. You hear screaming through concrete walls. Hours later, Salazar asks a simple question. Was he stealing? You stare at the spreadsheets. You know what answer keeps you alive. Yes, The screaming stops shortly after. You don't ask what happened, but you notice blood beneath one guard's boot later that night. You tell yourself you didn't kill him. You only confirmed numbers. But the numbers killed him anyway. That realization stays with you longer than expected. For weeks, you start waking up at exactly 4:11 a.m. Same nightmare every time. Rows of receipts soaked in blood. Eventually, the nightmares fade. That's worse. Level 5, the inner circle. At level 5, you stop serving the organization. You become part of it. Salazar invites you onto a private yacht off Cabo San Lucas. No phones allowed. Armed security on every deck. 3 cartel leaders sit around the table discussing expansion into European ports. Rotterdam, Antwerp, Naples. You realize these men control shipping routes larger than some governments, and they ask for your opinion. You explain how to hide profits through renewable energy investments and logistics firms registered in Malta. Nobody interrupts. Nobody questions you. By the end of dinner, one boss calls you hermano, brother. The word lands heavily, because now betrayal works both ways. You know too much to leave. At this level, your annual compensation exceeds $11 million, most of it hidden offshore. You own penthouses you never visit, cars registered under fake identities, art collections stored in Swiss free ports. But freedom disappears quietly. You can't date normally, can't trust strangers, can't stay in one place longer than 2 weeks. Every restaurant gets scanned for exits automatically. Every hotel room gets checked for cameras. You no longer see civilians as ordinary people. You see variables, threats, witnesses, loose ends. Then Salazar disappears. No warning, no funeral. Just silence. Some say Colombian rivals killed him. Others say the government flipped him. Nobody knows. But within hours, internal paranoia spreads through the network like gasoline fire. Money stops moving. Executions begin. Everyone searches for traitors, including you. For 41 days, you barely sleep. Encrypted accounts must be rerouted before rival factions seize control. You coordinate emergency transfers totaling $620 million across 12 countries, while armed escorts rotate every 6 hours around your compound. One mistake means death. Not eventually. Immediately. And during those 41 days, you discover the truth about power. The higher you rise, the more everyone around you fears losing what you control. Level 6, the treasurer. You inherit Salazar's position without ceremony. No promotion. No congratulations. Just responsibility. Now every major financial artery runs through you. Drug profits, fuel theft, human smuggling, political bribery, mining operations, kidnapping revenue. An empire generating nearly $4 billion annually. You control which factions receive funding and which starve. That makes you more dangerous than the gunmen. A Sicario can kill one person. You can bankrupt entire cities. Governors call your intermediaries privately before elections. Federal officials request stability payments. Bank executives meet you through lawyers at private golf clubs in Madrid and Dubai. Nobody says cartel. They say the organization. Respectable people always rename evil when money enters the room. You develop systems, compartmentalization. No employee knows more than necessary. Funds split across thousands of transactions. NSI-generated invoices, crypto mixers, private equity partnerships. At night, you monitor dashboards tracking cash flow like battlefield maps. Losses, leaks, arrests, seizures. Every number represents human risk somewhere below you. Then your younger brother calls unexpectedly. You haven't spoken in almost a year. He asks if you can help pay for your niece's surgery. $38,000. You stare at the number silently. Yesterday you authorized a $9 million political bribe without blinking, but hearing family ask for help feels unbearable. Because family belongs to your old life, a life that no longer fits. You wire the money anonymously. You never call him back. That night, you realize you can move billions globally in under 10 minutes, but cannot speak honestly to anyone anymore. Power expands your reach while shrinking your humanity. Level 7. The Architect. Governments start collapsing around your influence by year 10, not publicly, quietly. A customs director disappears after resisting cooperation. 3 senators suddenly support infrastructure bills benefiting cartel-controlled ports. A journalist investigating offshore accounts dies in a staged robbery. You never order violence directly. You don't need to. The machine understands incentives. At this level, your job becomes predictive. You model political instability like weather patterns. Which candidates can be bought? Which prosecutors can be compromised? Which countries offer weaker extradition treaties? You build redundancies everywhere. If one laundering route closes, 6 alternatives activate automatically. Entire corporations exist solely because you designed them. Thousands of employees unknowingly work inside your architecture, and yet your actual life becomes microscopic. Secure compounds, encrypted calls, windowless conference rooms, private jets flown under false manifests. You eat meals prepared by vetted staff because poisoning becomes statistically plausible now. You trust nobody completely, not even yourself. Sometimes you review old photos from before the cartel, cheap apartment, coffee stains on office shirts, normal fears. You barely recognize that person. One evening in Zurich, a banker asks how you sleep knowing where the money comes from. You answer honestly. "I don't sleep much," he laughs nervously. You don't. Later that month, intelligence reaches you about a young accountant recruited in Sinaloa, top of his class, quiet, disciplined, good with numbers. The organization wants you to evaluate him personally. You read his file for 10 seconds before approving transfer. That's all human lives become eventually. Files, assets, risk assessments. You once believed power meant control. Now you understand power really means maintenance, constant maintenance, because empires decay every hour they exist. Level 8, the Invisible King. By the time people whisper your name, they never say it directly. They say, the banker, the ghost, the man behind the accounts. You operate from a coastal estate outside Lisbon now, not because it's safe, because nowhere is safe anymore. The ocean stays gray most mornings. You wake before sunrise automatically. Old survival habit. 4 phones wait beside your bed. Encrypted reports arrive hourly from every continent. Seizures in Texas. Election leverage in Central America. Crypto fluctuations affecting laundering reserves in Singapore. Assassinations in border states. You authorize movements with brief responses. Approved. Freeze transfers. Replace intermediary. Minimal words. Maximum consequences. At level 8, action becomes abstract. You rarely see violence personally anymore. That's reserved for lower levels. But distance doesn't remove responsibility. It amplifies it. You know exactly how many people die protecting the system each month. You know which families receive compensation payments afterward. You know which politicians secretly panic when your funds disappear temporarily. Entire economies lean against invisible money you control. And still, you live like a prisoner. The estate has guards, cameras, drones, reinforced walls. But it's still confinement. You haven't walked through a public market in 11 years. Haven't used your real name in longer. Sometimes you stand alone on the balcony at night, watching cargo ships move silently across the Atlantic. Each one represents possibility, escape, movement, freedom. Things you finance constantly, but never possess yourself. The strange part is you no longer feel guilt clearly, only distance, as if your old conscience belongs to someone else entirely. You wonder when exactly that happened. Not during the violence, not during the laundering, probably much earlier. Maybe the first time you stayed silent after someone disappeared. That's how erosion works. Quietly. One compromise at a time. Then one morning, an encrypted message arrives from Kulaya Khan, a new recruit, 24 years old, former bank employee, excellent with numbers, reliable under pressure. The organization wants approval before bringing him inside. You stare at the file while rain taps softly against the glass. There's a photo attached. Cheap suit. Nervous smile. He still believes money is just money. You remember that version of yourself perfectly. The warehouse, the envelope, the counting machine humming in the cold. You approve the transfer with one click. Then you close the file. Somewhere across the city, a phone starts ringing at 2:13 a.m. A young man answers. He thinks he understands the rules. He doesn't. But he will.